Do you want to see absolute hell on earth? This is a street in Kowloon, Hong Kong. Not a corridor or a basement as you might think, but a street. Kowloon is the most densely populated place on earth. Here, the population density is 180 times greater than in New York. There are no social or any other services here. There's no sewage or water supply system. Narrow passages between buildings are filled with trash hanging above. You'd better take an umbrella with you when walking around here so that nothing falls on your head. Or rather, you should have done it, as the city no longer exists. The Hong Kong authorities demolished Kowloon in 1994, but there are still similar places like this one on our planet. Follow me, and I'll show you a real hell that people built on Earth. Just stay close and try not to get lost. So, our tour begins with the dirtiest cities, slums in Dharavi, Mumbai, India. 1 million people live here. And the main problem of this place is a sewage system. A UN report mentions that for every 1,500 people in Dharavi, there's on average only one toilet. That's why people basically relieve themselves in the river. It's the same river where they wash their clothes as well as bathe themselves. Oh yeah, I forgot to add that local enterprises also dump their waste there, and there are about 5,000 of them. That's not considering any tiny home factories that count up to at least 15,000. Due to air pollution, residents suffer from lung cancer, tuberculosis, and asthma. To make matters worse, constantly unsanitary conditions have made Dharavi a permanent home for typhoid fever. We're talking about 4,000 cases per day. However, Dharavi wasn't always like this. Once it was a swampy forest. Refugees and craftsmen set up their huts here when the swamps dried up, and today about 25% of the population recycles solid waste, and that's not a lot yet. For example, Manshiat Nasser in Egypt has almost 100% of garbage collectors. No wonder its name is Garbage City. More than 40,000 people live here. The whole city is literally covered with trash, plastic, and shopping bags. The only place with no garbage here is a church. A typical house for this place looks something like this. On the ground floor, there are large rooms for sorting and packing trash. There's a warehouse for bales and packages of sorted material on the roofs. Some buildings have metal platforms for burning waste that can't be recycled. In Manshiat Nasser, up to 85% of the garbage collected from all over Cairo is recycled. But the townsfolk of Manshiat Nasser don't give up, as they believe there are much worse places than that. And they're right indeed. Welcome to Poison Cities. Lahore, Pakistan. The city is undoubtedly beautiful, but it also has the dirtiest air in the world that steals 5 years from the average life expectancy. Blame it on decades of uncontrolled emissions, poor quality fuel, burning crops, and climate change. Lahore residents literally can't see their city due to thick smog, and that's more than 11 million people. All of them have to do the impossible to stay clean. After all, the slightest amount of sweat is instantly mixed with dust, and the skin eventually gets covered with red mud. Due to that toxic dust, 100,000 people die every year. Small particles of iron, nickel, and copper get into the lungs and bloodstream, causing heart and lung diseases, cancer, and eye infections. In Lahore, women give birth prematurely, and babies that are born have underdeveloped brains. It turns out that people live in hell here, though once it was even the place for the Shalimar Gardens, a symbol of heaven on earth. But if Lahore has turned into an uninhabitable place to live, La Oroya in Peru was like that from the very beginning. It's a small city with an area of 390 square kilometers. This city has around 35,000 people, among which only 5% have no health problems. For example, 95% of local children live with a blood lead level that's 3 times more than allowed. The problem is the steel plant. It worked for decades without any cleansing measures, so now there's a high concentration of sulfur dioxide, arsenic, and cadmium in the soil. The current authorities of Peru are waiting for the opportunity to reopen the plant. But while the Peruvian officials are only thinking about how to make life even worse for the locals, China has already done it. Welcome to the most terrifying villages on Earth. This is Xinjiang, an autonomous region in northwestern China. Numerous camps or correctional villages are located here for the indigenous population of Xinjiang, Muslim Uyghurs. Villages are separated in the desert and protected by armored gates with thick walls and covered with barbed wire. Gay McDougall, a member of the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, bluntly called Xinjiang one big camp. She suggested that in these villages, there are about 1 million imprisoned people, but the real figure may differ significantly. The thing is that there's almost no way to get in touch with the residents of Xinjiang. For all visitors, the military installs the Yingwang Vichy app. The application monitors all viewed and incoming information on the phone. Then it notifies the user about content that authorities consider dangerous. The city is divided into blocks, and when moving from one block to another, each resident is required to present a plastic ID, show the bag, scan the pupil, and sometimes even give a police officer their phone for a check. The same procedure is used in banks, hospitals, supermarkets, or the underground. There's a bunch of cameras all over the place, and there are about 20 million of them all over the country. People can be arrested if they wear a burqa, have a beard, or because of excessive religiosity, overly traditional clothing, public quotation of the Quran, and even if they give Arabic names to their children. Besides this, China has other hell-like villages. Guangxi in Shandong province has the highest rate of stomach cancer incidence on the planet. And that's all because of local whales poisoned by emissions from an aluminum plant. It's estimated that the number of so-called cancer villages ranges from 250 to 400 in 27 provinces. But up to 2017, the government didn't even acknowledge their existence until Chinese bloggers intervened and spread astonishing statistics. It gives me chills to even imagine that, but there are entire countries in the world just like these villages. And now welcome to the most dreaded countries to live in. Burundi is a small country with an area of only about 28,000 square kilometers. In Burundi, neither authorities nor people have money. At their only airport on the schedule screen, you can even see that they don't even have any money to activate Windows. About 11 million people live here, and almost everyone deals with farming. This is what fishing in the center of the capital looks like, and these are folding beds in a family with 7 children. In Burundi, if you have a bicycle, you are blessed by God and can work transporting goods. However, it's very exhausting, so in Burundi, cyclists often cling to cars to save time and energy. However, the list of such countries doesn't end there. There's also Haiti, where kids eat mud cakes and adults spend all day making them. Needless to say that in Liberia, people eat monkey meat. And by the way, it's where the terrible Ebola virus comes from. There are 46 countries in the world with awful living conditions, and 33 of them are in Africa, the cradle of humankind. If you're wondering how and why such cities and countries still exist on Earth, I just have one thing to say. Hell appears where people lack knowledge. So don't let the hell spread. Learn more and subscribe to the channel.